Now, recently, a former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, secured the ticket of the Labour Party to contest the 2023 presidential election. His emergence in that capacity seems to have raised the stakes, going by the reactions of Nigerians across media platforms. Right now, we are being joined for a bit of catching up with Dr. Doyin Okupe, chairman of Peter Obi Presidential Campaign Organization, for some detailed focus on the progress of the Labour Party presidential candidate, as well as matters relating to ongoing difficulties in PVC registration and how this might impact on enthusiasm of young people regarding the emergence of a third force as an alternative to APC and PDP. Peter Obi's choice of running mate, what Labour Party must do to effectively mobilize support, and the deleterious effect of money on Nigerian politics. Welcome to the program, Dr. Okupe.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you
nice
for joining us.
I've never been here on a Sunday.
We're very pleased to have you.
It's always so nice and refreshing on Sundays.
Thank you.
But I guess we can just move right into the main topic of the day here,
Yes, right on.
which is your issue with the crisis, the factional crisis within the Labour Party. The emergence of Jude Nwafor as your factional presidential candidate, a former aide to Willie Obiano. Can you tell us what the situation is at this point?
Well, at this point, I can say, I said it before, a couple of days ago, that it was really a storm in a teacup, and I meant it. But the truth of the matter is that the gentlemen who are behind this factionalism had issues with the leadership of the Labour Party, for quite a while. It's been on since 2017. And, they're in court and all that, and, to some extent, it was an abeyance. But, the coming of Peter Obi into Labour aggravated things, because the stakes became quite high. And so, if you felt you have been cheated, Callistus feels that he ought to be the chairman and that not somebody who was a deputy or acting secretary should be on top of him. So those were the real issues. But I was in Abuja for the last 72 hours, and we have met for more than 8, 9, 10 hours in the last 2 days. And I can say authoritatively that the matter has been resolved. As you saw, the Jude, Jude Nwafor had resigned his purported candidacy. And Callistus himself also, said yesterday that he was totally and completely dropping the issue of his seeking for chairmanship of the party and all that. But I must say that I also must give credit to elders in Anambra, because they mobilized to Abuja, and while we were holding meetings with them, they were also holding meetings with Callistus and Jude. And when they left a very elderly and very responsible man, and Engineer Edwin, to supervise the next series of meetings and to make sure that things don't go out of hand. And that's exactly what he did. And we resolved it. Did
you pay any money? Yeah.
We didn't, and I say that for the first, the meeting on the first day, the second day, towards the end, there were issues of, legal expenses, etc., etc. But the elders also moved in and said, look, do not demean your propositions, and that if there are issues about money, that they will look at it internally and find a way to sort it out. So it wasn't not to do money. We have not parted.
It's a non-issue.
We have not parted with a dime, and I am the one in charge, and there's no problem.
Okay. Well, as we all know, you very recently jettisoned your presidential ambition to throw your full weight behind Peter Obi.
For very good cause.
We want to talk about what informed that decision. And while we're on that, could we also get your take on whether you feel that Peter Obi leaving the PDP for Labour Party was an informed decision?
Thank you very much. Well, I was totally, viscerally angered by the situation in the country. And I thought really politically I was done. That's why I moved out of Lagos, out of Abuja, and was residing in Ogun State in my hometown. But, the issues that we were seeing, this issue of banditry, kidnapping, poor economy, endangering poverty, was just getting too much. So that was why I said, I am going to run. Because if it appears as if there's nobody, no Nigerian, who is competent enough, who is knowledgeable enough to do it. I know I have what it takes to do it. So that's why I volunteered to run. But I also saw that the platform on which I was standing was not the correct platform, because on the day I pulled out of it, I made statements to the fact that the PDP was obviously playing games with us, those of us who came from the South, that a decision had been taken that this party will pick his presidential candidates from the North. And that hypocrisy was quite worrisome to me. And I said it publicly, and I have improved right, because against all odds, PDP still went ahead, and against the interests and aspirations of majority of Southerners. Now APC has stolen the show by their governors coming up and saying power must shift to the South, which was the mantra that we pleaded. So when I knew that was only going to happen, I said that I was going to step out of it. But then, truly, if I'm stepping out of it, it cannot be for nothing. I should step out and support what is equitable, what is just. And what is just and equitable for me is that power, we agreed. It may not be written, but we agreed. I've been in this game for 42 years. I was there at the session of PDP. I know everything. We agreed that power will shift from the North to the South and vice versa. So automatically, after Buhari's 8 years, power, it doesn't matter whether it is in PDP or APC, power must come to the South. And if power indeed comes to the South, in the South, what do we have? We have 3 zones. We've got Southwest. Southwest had Obasanjo's 8 years. Southwest still had a current vice president who by next year will have completed another 8 years. In all fairness, to me, Southwest ought not to be in this equation. Then South-South, it was a South-South president, Goodluck Jonathan, who left the stage for Buhari to come in. So they were also not qualified. We had in the South, we had a zone that has never done it. We cannot live by injustice and expect God to prosper us. It doesn't work that way. So that's why I said, if I'm the only person, I'm going to pitch my tent with the Southeast, and I'm going to stand on this matter. And when I look at the Southeast, to me, the very best of the aspirants that were coming on, at that time was Peter Obi. I will even publicly here admit that in spite of my preparedness, in spite of all that I've acquired and all that, he's a much better person than myself to run the country. And it's not about me, it's not about personality, it's about the country, it's about the nation. If you feel that well about the country, nobody, even a blind person can see that Peter Obi is what it is. Now, to your question of whether it was a wise decision to take, circumstances and happenstances have now shown us that we did something that was right, because we saw there were many reasons, and I'll be open with you on this program. I'll be open with you. I hope Peter will not mind. We saw the deception that was being played out in PDP. We also saw that there were things that are being done, and if we have to participate in it, even if we win, it will undermine our rhetorics. We want to stand for what is right. We want to change the system. You don't change the system by, first of all, committing crime or doing something that is corrupt or not right. And say, gentlemen, look, I had to do it. If I didn't do it, I will not be here. That's not right. Peter told me, he said, look, Egmont, that's what he calls me. He said, I would rather lose doing what is right than to win doing what is wrong. And I agreed with him. And besides that, it was obvious that there was no future in PDP. The governors have ganged up, and the governors have insisted that they wanted to be, at that time, they wanted to be president and vice president. And they are powerful and strong people in the party. So we didn't stand a chance. And if we are not left, today, the aspirations of Peter Obi, his potentials will have all been dead and buried. And not only that, today, Peter Obi is on the ticket. And, for goodness sake, somebody from Eastern Nigeria is on the Nigerian ticket. Even if that is what he has achieved, it's good enough.
But you must admit that your party, the Labour Party, has a lot to do in terms of matching the two major political parties, that is the APC and the PDP. Yes, but what strategies are you employing to bridge this gap, and how optimistic are you that Obi will match a Tinubu and an Atiku toe-to-toe in just about 8 months?
Well, now that you mentioned Tinubu, let me also seize this opportunity to congratulate Bola Ahmed Tinubu for doing something that was absolutely impossible. I congratulate him. I know he's a very astute politician, very dogged fighter, and he has done the act of the impossible. And we really, really wish him well. But talking about the Labour Party, the Labour Party is a small party. There's no doubt about it. And that's why people are a little bit worried that, have we done what is right or what is reasonable? But you see, in these times, these are not the usual times. Look, I'll give you just one example. In the last 20 years, INEC has spent billions and billions of naira on voter education and encouraging voters to come and vote. But a gentleman now decides, I'm going to run for president, I am in this party, and I'm asking you, gentlemen, youths of Nigeria, go out and register. And there's a whole tsunami. So, people in this country, the political establishment in Nigeria is totally unprepared for what is coming. There is a major revolution, political revolution, that is in the wake, but it is presently imperceptible. For those who are not looking, I've listened to commentators and all that. When they talk, they say, well, who's going to win between Atiku and Bola Tinubu? And I just laugh. None of these two parties will win. And that's the truth. Because, look, this is an old order. When we used to say, I said it before, even when I was in PDP, I said that there was no difference any longer between the PDP and the APC. And all that has been proved right, because the present chairman of PDP, of APC, was a PDP man. The secretary, Omishore, was a PDP senator. Even Atiku himself, that is contesting under PDP today, contested under APC before. So these are two, they are not even twins. They are just one block divided into two. But the essential thing is that APC and PDP belong to an old order that is fading and passing away. And it comes like that in the history of any nation. These two pillars will crash. There's nothing anybody can do about it. What is coming up is a youth revolution in this country. People are underestimating it. And, I laugh when people say, Peter Obi is popular on Twitter. Peter Obi is popular on Facebook. Yes, he's popular on Facebook. And Facebook Facebook and social media may not have contributed significantly to political development in Nigeria before now. But they will matter now, because we have the key. We're going to use what it takes to unleash them on the political system. There are over 32 million Nigerians on Facebook, on the social media. 24 of them on Facebook, about 30.9 or so are on WhatsApp. Now, 40% of that, getting PVC and voting will shock PDP and APC. We will, by the time Obi wins this election, he will win with a margin that will be more than the votes of PDP and APC added together. You will see. It is going to be by youth power. It is going to be by youth power. And when he eventually wins, it's going to be a youth government. You will see a 29-year-old person as Minister for Communication. You will see a 32-year-old woman as Minister for Interior. It is, I am a very strong man behind Peter Obi, but I'm 70 years old. What do I want? I don't want to be a minister. I have passed that. When I was working for Obasanjo, minister used to come to my office to lobby me to see the president, to get something from the president. So what I want to do, that was how many years ago? More than 20 years ago.
There's that general notion that those numbers that you just quoted are just numbers, and those people don't go out to vote.
Yes,
those are the people that are voting.
Yes, my dear, I accept. They don't, but they are numbers, they're human beings, they're Nigerians. But guess what? They are angered They have a visceral motivation. They want to take part. They want to take their country back. And they are educated. They are mobile. They are active. They themselves. Have you seen this video about people trying to get PVC?
Yes. What do you make of those videos? Which is where we were going to go with this as well, because of course you're talking as
I'm just praying that INEC will rise to the occasion. All right, by making sure that
they released a statement. Did you say what? They did release a statement that they will extend registration.
Which is I read it, and that is very commendable. But they must extend the registration. They must make sure that materials are available. Okay, but also governments must ensure that every Nigerian, no matter where he comes from, wherever he goes, he has a right to vote anywhere, and therefore he has a right to collect PVC from his point of residence, his place of residence. This we must do. It is even more important than the election because it's got to do with the fundamental human rights of the Nigerian citizens. That must be done. We need government to come up and to strongly protect the rights of the citizens in this matter. This issue of some people not being allowed to register, some people, hooligans driving away people. We should not allow it in this country. It should not happen.
All right, Dr. Okupe, let's talk about what expectations Nigerians should have in relation to who Peter Obi's likely running mate will be, and what's going to inform that decision.
That's a very tough one. The issue of the running mate, number one, it has to come from the north. The running mate must come from the north. But luckily for us, we don't have the problems that the APC has. That Peter Obi is a Christian. Most people in the north, I hope I'm not saying what is not right, but many people, in the far north are Muslims. So it's a question of picking somebody either from the far north or from the middle belt, but essentially has to be a Muslim. But also we are thinking, because Obi is, extremely or superlatively popular in the south, the penetration in the north is still not at a desired point that we will like it. So we need somebody, a very strong political figure, who himself, on his own, has both the political resource and the financial resource and the sagacity, to popularize this movement in the north itself. So those are the things that we're looking at. And, I also hope that the person is a young person.
Okay, so do you any female candidate probably?
Sex is not an issue here. If it is female, fine. If you look at Peter Obi, in his last administration, his chief of staff was a female. His minister for finance was a female. There were about 4 or 5 females taking very, very strong, responsible positions in that administration. So, it would be, of course, we're going to be gender sensitive in all these things that we do. But, competence, capability, capacity will be, deciding factors.
You also have to admit that your candidate needs, heavyweight allies, doesn't he? Are you actively wooing like minds from the established parties, or are you waiting
when you talk about
for the disgruntled ones to decamp to yours?
Yeah,
when you say heavyweight allies, you're also still going back to Egypt. You're going, that is, the allies that we need are the 100 million Nigerians that are poor. The allies that we need are the 40 million Nigerian youths that have no jobs. Those are the allies that we need. Those are the people that this country belongs to. For goodness sake, people like me, and the rest of us should step aside. Let these young people whose future we really want to bother about, let them come and handle the reins of power by themselves. And in any case now, they are talking about it. I hope that they will back it by collecting their PVCs. I hope they're listening to me, wherever they are in the country, whether you are from the north or from the south. Poverty has no ethnicity. It has no religion. If you wake up this morning with nothing in your pocket, whether you're in Kano, Maduguri, or Lagos, or Iperu, my hometown, it's the same thing. So, Peter Obi is coming to rescue the poor, to pull out as many as possible in the first 4 years out of poverty, to make life more comfortable, more meaningful, to stop wastage and decline in this country. So going back to pillars that we have left, going back to the so-called the owners of the country, or the big wigs, no, that's not what we're looking at. We want to go down to the grass. We want to go down. We want to bring in young people. We want, those are the people we want. It is for them that we're doing all this. Like I've just told you, I have little or nothing to benefit from the next government. But I have children, and I've spent so much resource in educating them. When I came as a young person, and I left medical school, the future was so bright. Everything was looking so good. I can't say that for my children. And I pray that I'm able to be part of a system that will reverse all these things and bring them back to where we are. And the only way we can do that is to stop doing the things we used to do in the past. And that is also the same reason why these political infrastructures and platforms that we used to stand on must collapse. PDP, APC have of necessity expired. That's the truth. And it doesn't really matter. Atiku Abubakar, great guy. I've worked with him. In fact, he was one of those who, led me into, he and Yomi Edu were the people who led me into Obasanjo's regime. Bola Tinubu, my great friend, we were in the trenches together in Nadeko. But our time has gone. Our time has passed.
Are you saying your party, the Labour Party, does not need any heavyweight to succeed this
We don't need any heavyweight. Let me tell you about Labour Party. I'm glad you answered that question. We don't need any heavyweight. Sure. The greatest political infrastructure in the country today is the Labour. But you see, they do not understand who they are until we came. The Labour emanated or came out of our colonial past. In the colonial past, the whites were they were in charge. So people who are working, their leadership were interested only in their well-being and welfare. They never conceived the idea that they can actually ever rule. So what we're saying now is that, look, you people are the workers. When Peter says, let us move from consumption to production, he's talking about let us bring in the Nigerian workers, all right, into whatever we're doing. Let me tell you what NLC, what the Labour Party encompasses of. Labour Party has the NLC in it. The NLC has a registered membership of 5 million Nigerians. 5 million Nigerians without their families. They have TUC. TUC has a membership of 8 million Nigerians. There are a Nigerian Union of Teachers. There's road transport workers. There are professionals. This is the biggest thing you don't need anybody. This is the biggest thing, and we're going to arouse this giant. We're going to wake the Nigerian workers, and we're going to unleash them on the political system. Nigeria will not have seen what is coming. I'm telling you.
Manifesto-wise, what should we expect? Of course, we've talked about the labor here. It's been a very important factor. Yeah. But let's talk about the economy, infrastructure. Education is an area that Peter has been quite big on. Let's talk about what Peter is bringing to the table. That is not currently existing.
We have a manifesto that has been done, a draft. But, we are unable to make it public because, we've now taken a new toga, a toga of labor. And, labor is highly ideological. You understand? So it will be presumptuous of us to force our manifesto on them. We are just operators and operatives. The real party is the labor movement. So they must have very serious influence on whatever we're going to tell Nigerian people that we're going to do. Because, wholesomely, everybody says we don't have structure. That is true. But the structure we have is labor. So we cannot do anything without them. But whatever we do, whatever our manifestos will be, is going to reflect a lot on the labor ideology, which is, which centers around workers, and their welfare. So this is what we're going to do. But basically, the theme that will run across that manifesto is moving from consumption to production.
Yeah. I wanted to take you back on, the heavyweights that you are saying you may not need.
I'm not saying we may not, we don't.
You will not need for the Labour Party.
But if they come, it's fine, no problem.
Okay.
But we're not searching for heavyweights.
Right.
We are looking for Nigerian youths. We're looking for young people, women and men.
If you were to analyze the APC primaries that, brought Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the flag bearer, would you say that that could replicate during the 2023 general election? And how would your party stand a competitive election like that?
You're speaking like the Jews. When Christ came, they didn't see him. They didn't know. You're still talking about what happens at the APC convention. I'm telling you that before the 2023 elections, APC, PDP will have kaput. They have no relevance on what will happen subsequently. These young people are coming and they are going to take over, whether we like it or not. We are just operating as guides. We're going to guide them. We're going to moderate and modulate them. We're going to help to stabilize them. It is their government that is coming in. It has nothing to do with APC, nothing to do with PDP. These are political sepulchres. It's finished. That's what Christ said on the cross. He said, it is finished. For APC, for PDP, it is finished.
You talk about, the label, and I'm still stuck on that because you're talking about the youth, which is you're capitalizing on it. In what ways are you reaching this youth? A lot of these guys, when you talk about production to consumption to production, it goes over their heads, really. You're talking to some of them are laymen. They don't understand how exactly this is going to happen. They might want to see change. But what ways are you communicating and sensitizing this youth?
Thank you very much. It's the ways that people are criticizing us on. We are employing a lot of social media connections and contacts. Because in any case, 80% of people on social media are the young people. So if you say that 32 million people on social media, 80% of them are, young people. So whatever activities you engage, yesterday, Peter was on Twitter Space for several hours. I have been on Twitter Space for 3 hours. So, yes, when he was talking to people, he had an audience of about 4,000, 5,000, something like that. You understand? So these are the things, these are the instruments, these are the modern tools of communication that the leadership of the APC and PDP are not likely going to pay attention to or see their relevance. But this is the embodiment of what we are using, because that is where our constituency is. And we're using everything that we have to deploy in that direction. But also, let me tell you, surprisingly, these young people are even moving ahead of us. Look, I do not sleep again. I get calls from everybody and everywhere. WhatsApp, we're this group, we're doing this. People have done so much. They are doing so much on their own. The most dangerous thing is this. While the PDP and APC people, I was in PDP for several years, mind you, so I know what I'm saying. Nobody can tell me Okupe doesn't know what he's talking about. That's crap. You understand? If you're a pope, I'm also a deputy pope. So, the PDP and APC have to give money to voters to vote for them. Now, our own voters are saying, guess what? We have never seen Peter Obi, but we are voting for Peter Obi. On their own, they are already galvanizing themselves, constituting themselves, according to words, polling booths. So, we even have a problem organizing them. We need to have a complete directorate to harness, this youthful exuberance. We don't have a problem winning this coming election. Only that it may look quite unbelievable because it is something fresh, it is something new, it's something that people are not thinking about, but it's something that will overtake people like a tsunami.
Right. Waiting for that new wave. Well, as we begin to wrap up this conversation, today is Democracy Day. I'm not sure if you had a chance to listen to the president's address where he talked about assuring Nigerians a free, fair, and transparent election.
Wonderful.
Any thoughts on Democracy Day?
I thought that was the highlight. That was the high point of that address. The only thing that Buhari can do now is, and I think he has capacity to do it. Because I saw him at the Legal Square on that day, sitting down, appearing helpless. But this, I looked at him and said, this is the president sitting. You could see that things were not going his way. But he had the tenacity, he had the temerity, he had the constraint to sit it through and allow it to happen. I do not like Buhari, but let me tell you that if I had an opportunity to be in the stadium, I would have requested for me to hug him. That was something really great. And I believe him this morning when he said he is going to ensure a level playing field for this thing and that people shouldn't take it like life and death. He didn't take it like life and death. Look, I know what other people could have done, even at that venue. I know, I've served 2 presidents, and I know what, even though, his term is going towards an end, but, he's still the commander-in-chief. A lot could have happened at that stadium that day. Bola Tinubu and co they owe their emergence to the reticence and the humaneness and humility of Buhari, constraining himself. You could see his face that this thing was not going the way he wanted, but he was man enough, he was strong enough. You see, the measure of strength is not your capacity to deploy it, but to restrain yourself when you can use it to achieve an end and you don't use it. That is the man that has power. That is the man that I doff my hat for him. And I believe, and he has encouraged us further, because we know once there's a free and fair election, PDP, APC will sink. We know that for a fact.
Well, all right. On that note, we want to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show, Dr. Doyin Okupe.
It's okay. Now it's comrade.
Comrade. Fantastic.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Good luck. Yeah.